Alright guys, so this is going to be the last of 3 videos I'm filming today. The first one is about school questions and comments. The second was more stuff of a personal nature, either about you or about me. And somehow we ended up in the coronavirus. I don't know. And then this one is really about questions you've asked me regarding either the economy or political issues or that kind of thing. These are things that came up primarily in some U.S. history lessons recently. There are only like 4 questions, but you know that sometimes these can take a while. So here we go. Well, before I dive in there, if you haven't seen the other videos, I'm just going to mention this. This is probably the last week I'm going to dump anything in the Google Classroom announcement saying, hey, there are more videos. If you're interested in me doing more of these, which, look, I'm an old dude, I'm a teacher, you're welcome to be like, it's the summer, I'm done, I don't care. But if you want me to, you can do really 2 things that would let me know that you're even interested. One is you can subscribe, and that's not because I'm trying to get money or rise to the top of YouTube. It's just because if nobody subscribed, why would I make videos? If you're not going to watch them, right? It's silly. The other thing would be I'll put a form down in the description. You might have to go to YouTube itself to find it. But you can tell me if you're interested in this and what kinds of things you'd like me to address in the future, because I don't think you're going to be filling Google Forms out, you know, all summer. So what kind of things you're interested in? And if you want to interact with me, that'd be great. Like, nobody's leaving almost any comments about anything, and it's really hard to respond to that. So anyway, so first question is this. People say the economy is struggling, but I thought it was doing all right. What's going on? Well, what's going on is a pandemic, right? And so before the pandemic, things were going pretty well. Unemployment was not at all bad. The numbers have been trending in a really good direction for a long time now. Our GDP, our gross domestic product, that's the value of everything we make in the country in a year, was growing, so we're producing more. We had some good trade deals, like we had this deal to send more pork to China because Chinese pork had some issues with, I think it was disease or something. And so farmers were buying up more land, and that's really great. Okay, now, enter a pandemic. And all of a sudden, pretty much overnight, people are not going to work in large numbers. People are getting sick, so they can't work. People aren't going to the store. So we are neither producing things at the same level we were before or buying things. And so companies realize that, and pretty much immediately they're like, oh, shoot, we got to do something in order to stay afloat. We can't keep paying people, and so they lay all these people off. And what happens is you get some massive increases in unemployment. In fact, these are the highest 1-month increases in unemployment since we started measuring unemployment. In fact, the only time our unemployment numbers have been as bad as this was the Great Depression. That's why it's a little bit difficult to find jobs right now, because people just aren't hiring, because not that many people are shopping. Okay, now, as we start to wind down the quarantine and the lockdown, you're going to start to see some of these businesses hiring people back, maybe even hiring new folks, potentially. But you have to remember, there's a problem, and that problem is that the virus is still out there. Okay, so if the virus is still out there, what happens if we open up the economy, people go out and they start shopping again, and because they're in contact with more people, we have to lock down again? Well, then the exact same thing happens, and people are very concerned that we're going to have what they call a W-shaped recovery. So in other words, the economy's here, and then it crashes, and then it starts to get a little bit better, and then when the second outbreak happens, it drops again. Okay, and then it comes up eventually. We don't know when it's going to be. That's why we call it a W-shaped recovery. That would not be great. The other problem can be what they call an L-shaped recovery, where it drops and then it just very slowly, like it does come up, but it's very slow in coming back. That wouldn't be great either. So look, it's rough times, and you probably know that I'm not a huge Trump fan, but we can't completely lay this at Trump's feet. Like, the pandemic is not Trump's fault, okay? I do think there are things the federal government could have done better, but ultimately we were going to have some ramifications from this pretty much regardless of what happened. So this is not just me being out there like, oh, I don't like the president. Okay, so if you've read that from me, you know, between the lines, or maybe sometimes just that was what the pages on the book said, be aware this isn't that. Okay, it's just the economy's really, really struggling right now, and a lot of people are saying that this is worse than what happened in 2008. This is really something we haven't seen since the Great Depression. Now, the question is, how long does it last? Well, if we have a vaccine that comes out in September or January or whenever, you give it out in large numbers, and all of a sudden you see the economy come back relatively quickly, although a lot of people are saying it's not going to be a full return. There are still going to be some long-lasting ramifications. Okay. Somebody says, what's the difference between Obama's stimulus package and Trump's stimulus check? So Obama's stimulus package, and again, I haven't looked this up, but here's what I remember. Obama's stimulus package was largely designed, and let's back up. This isn't actually either Obama or Trump. It's them working with their Congresses. They both take credit, but it's not really fair for either of them. Obama's idea is, hey, we have all these companies that are really struggling right now. The automotive industry and the banking industry were two under Obama. Let's just give them a whole bunch of money, and that way they can stay afloat. That way they can continue to pay people, and there we go. I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, I should have checked this, I don't think it came with here's a bunch of money for individuals, okay? The Trump recovery basically said it's not specific businesses we're going to give the money to, it's we're going to open up, and again, it's not Trump, it's the Congress. We're going to open up a deal so that small businesses in particular can apply for these loans, which will turn into grants if you meet some certain requirements. In other words, you won't have to pay these back, okay? So we're gonna allow people to get these to keep their businesses going, and we're gonna give some money to individuals, $500 per child. It was, what was it, $1,200 per adult, and that's really nice. Now the problem is, if this goes on for 4 months, 5 months, a year, is a one-time check enough? No. And so even now you've got Congress debating, do we give more money to people to help them get through this? Yeah, there's also a lot of discussion right now about what they call mortgage forgiveness or mortgage relief. So if you don't have your job right now, but we're in the middle of a pandemic, maybe we don't foreclose on your house, which would be super, super nice, okay? And most mortgage companies are doing that voluntarily because they don't really want a whole bunch of houses that nobody's buying. They'd rather have money in 6 months than no money, for the foreseeable future. So that's kind of the big difference. But again, I haven't researched it lately, so I don't know. Somebody says, I don't understand what No Child Left Behind has to do with globalization. Yeah, I did. I put it in there because the notes put it in there, but it's a pretty simple connection. The idea is this, okay? If we are concerned that you as students are going to go out there and compete at some level for jobs with people from India and China and Japan and Europe and the rest of the world, really, we want to make sure that you have a high quality education, that you're able to compete, that your thinking skills, that your math skills, your science skills, your social studies skills, that they are solid. Okay, so we need some way to measure how are our teachers actually doing. Because if you go out there and compete and you're no good, everybody's going to hire from Japan and Europe and wherever else. So that's the connection there. Last question is, what benefits are there to not being a part of a union? If you have to pay extra for healthcare, doesn't that make the sick pay more? I think those are two questions. So if you join a union, the idea is that the union takes your money, they pay some people to deal with the management for you. Hopefully that gets you better benefits, better pay, all kinds of things. Okay, that's great. The problem is, really, there are a couple big issues. One of them in particular is that unions tend to also be very political. Okay, they support political candidates who support unions, which tend to be Democrats. So if you're a Republican, do you want to pay a bunch of money to your union when they're going to take maybe a quarter of that money and go give it to Democratic candidates? Maybe not. Maybe it doesn't bother you. But there are definitely people who don't like that at all, and that's a major complaint they have about unions. Another issue is that the unions, if they push too hard, right, and they get too many requests, the company might look at what's being asked and say, we can't do that. And so we're going to ship this job over to China and do the work there. So actually, the unions can hurt employers or employees in the long run unintentionally through that. So really it has to do with the two things, the political issues and if we push too hard, this company can't continue to be viable. So either the company is going to fold or they're going to send jobs elsewhere. And there are other concerns, but those I think are the two biggest that I hear the most often. Somebody says this, if you have to pay extra for health care, doesn't this make the sick pay more? Yeah, and I think here's how I interpret that question. Maybe I'm wrong. But if healthcare costs go up, don't sick people have to pay more money? And the answer is yes. Okay, but there's a difference, and I think maybe this is the issue. There are two different things. One is your health cost that you pay to the hospital or the doctor when you go there. The other one is what are you paying to your insurance company? Okay. The doctor is always going to get a pretty fixed, even that's not true because it's so complicated, but in concept, here's the thing. Let's say a doctor gets $100 for a visit from you. That's true whether it comes out of my pocket or whether it comes out of the insurance company's pocket, okay? And again, it's not actually true because there's so many variables and insurance companies say we won't pay more than, $75 per visit, but just go with it. So let's say they're going to get $100 regardless, okay? Well, if there are more people in the insurance pot that are getting their money paid for by the insurance company has to have enough money that they can actually pay all these doctors who are asking for $100 a pop. So if there are more people, then the insurance company has to charge a little bit more. Now, the thing is, some people don't go to the doctor. If you're young and healthy and you're feeling really sick, you're probably not going to go. And so the idea is the insurance company charges you this money, but they hope that they break even. And they know exactly, like statistically, how often I, as a 39-year-old adult male who doesn't smoke and doesn't drink, they know about how often I'm going to go to the hospital, about how likely I am to get any number of diseases, and so they know how much they should charge me to still make a couple bucks, okay? Now, I'm going to cost more than you folks who are young and in your late teens, and so your parents don't have to pay quite as much for you, but it's a game, okay? And the game for the insurance company is we want to make sure that we're charging enough that we can pay for your bills, but enough of you won't use them that we're okay, right? So why would I get insurance? I get insurance because it's cheaper for me to pay into that, in theory, than it is for me to go to the doctor. Okay? I'm betting that I will get sick, and the insurance company's betting or is hoping that I won't get sick. Okay? I don't know if that makes any sense or not. I got to think about this and watch this video and see if I need to re-record it. But there you go. Y'all, if this is the end for us this year, then it's been fun. If you decide you're going to subscribe and fill out the Google form down below, that'd be great too. I'd love to continue these conversations, so let me know how you're doing. Hope you have a great summer. See ya.